Anyone who believes in indefinite growth on a physically finite planet is either mad or an economist.
We don't want to focus politics on a notion that involves the rejection of principles around which a large majority of our fellow citizens organize their lives.
We are not as endlessly manipulable and as predictable as you would think.
We're very grateful to the RSA for hosting a series of lectures designed to explore ideas which can shape a new political economy for the arts and culture in England. And it falls to me just 6 weeks into chairing the Arts Council to deliver the first. In the last month, I visited 10 of our cities to take the temperature of arts and culture outside London. Bristol, Nottingham, Gateshead, Birmingham, Manchester. And what I saw wasn't for the privileged few. It was art and culture that was for everyone, regardless of their age or background. In my tour, I've seen some of the finest galleries in Europe: the Manchester Art Gallery, the Baltic in Gateshead, the Nottingham Contemporary. I've met people who produce some of our greatest music, from the Halle to the City of Birmingham Symphony Orchestra to the Sage. In London, surely the world's capital of culture, I've been to extraordinary theatre, opera, ballet, contemporary dance, concerts, galleries and museums. Let's remember that years of sustained investment in arts and culture have given us these riches that we enjoy. So what cultural learning or riches did I bring back from my grand tour? A compelling idea that our arts and cultural landscape is now being shaped through what I'm calling a grand partnership. It's an idea that can be found in action in places across the country. It contemplates bold new ways of doing things, fighting to create cultural prosperity first, and alongside it, economic prosperity. It's the way I see our cultural life thriving, even in challenging times. The Grand Partnership excels when arts and culture galvanize local communities, when they're delivered in imaginative partnerships with individuals supporting it, local authorities, businesses, and higher education. They work towards goals that benefit everyone. But the Grand Partnership shouldn't stop there. Anyone can be part of it: voluntary organizations, commercial arts companies, trusts and foundations. I went to the Nottingham Lace Market development, also known as the City Deal. There, the partners include the Nottingham Contemporary, Broadway Media Centre, Antenna, and New College Nottingham. They leveraged 60 million of government funds to develop this creative quarter, and it's led to job creation and addressing a skills gap in the city. I sat down in the Nottingham Contemporary for a meeting with many of the partners in this enterprise, and the city councillor who came to that meeting wasn't the city councillor in charge of culture. It was the city councillor in charge of economic development. I found that extremely significant. I went to Newcastle and Gateshead, and just on the Newcastle side of the river, I visited Baltic 39. Now, Baltic 39 is a really interesting, innovative gallery. The partners there are the Baltic, Northumbria University, and Newcastle City Council. Baltic 39 provides an exhibition space, a sort of incubus for emerging talent. There are 30 permanent artist studios there, and it's an ideal place for university students to hone and refine their practice alongside professionals. You're beginning to get the idea, I think, of how the Grand Partnership works. In Derby, I discovered something else that I thought was really innovative. Derby University has taken over Derby Theatre to give it a new lease of life, not only as a live venue, but also as a training centre. That's a novel and enterprising idea. And one of the most inspiring visits I've made in the last 6 weeks was to the Turner Contemporary on the Kent coast. There, a partnership with the Arts Council, Thanet District Council, Kent County Council, and English Heritage has been a key driver in the regeneration of Margate's Old Town. The Old Town's now fully occupied, and the project is now moving on to the High Street. I met some of the new businesses that are clustering around it. I met some of the people who were unemployed who are now working in the gallery. And if you haven't been there, I suggest you go there and be inspired, because it is inspiring. And beyond local partnerships are new alliances which recognise the symbiosis between cultural health and economic wealth. The Arts Council and Visit England now have announced a partnership to boost cultural tourism in England. 3 million of Arts Council funding will help tourism partnerships develop cultural experiences and create targeted holiday packages emphasising culture. Now, it's been hinted to me by some friendly souls that it's art for art's sake, that we should forget all this stuff, about the economy. Well, it's true, I didn't go to London Sinfonietta's recent Steve Reich concert at the Festival Hall to buy a Festival Hall ice cream or marvel at the tourists on South Bank. I went to enjoy his extraordinary variations on a theme by Radiohead. But the South Bank Centre has pioneered the generation of new commercial revenue streams, and it is a tourist magnet. I didn't go to Ballet Boys, the Talent 2013 at Sadler's Wells last week to discuss how contemporary dance can give young people a completely new direction in life. I went to see some touching and lyrical choreography that will stay in my mind for a very long time. But contemporary dance can, indeed, have that dramatic effect on people's lives. Of course, the arts create shared experiences that move us to laughter or tears, that increase our understanding of other people's lives, that educate and entertain us. In short, it's the power of enlightenment. But this does lead to other benefits. Now, the Yorkshire Sculpture Park is worth £5 million to its local economy, and the nearby Hepworth Gallery saw 100,000 visitors in its first 5 weeks after opening, a case compelling enough that Wakefield is one of the local councils actually increasing its culture budget. And I say hooray to that. I've also visited the Workplace Gallery in Newcastle, and the two young men running that business said to me that when Newcastle announced, which I'm pleased to say it's now been rescinded, their 100% cut to their arts and culture budget, they said on the day that announcement was made, they got a call from Sweden and they got a call from New York saying, is Newcastle open for business? What's happening in your city? They were shocked, and the business community in Newcastle was shocked at the potential loss of reputation of their city, not just its cultural reputation, but of course its economic reputation. And I think it was the opinions of the business community in Newcastle, as well as some very helpful interventions by others, that made the difference to the decision and brought that cut from 100% back to 50%. We remember, don't we, that 2/3 of surveyed UK businesses reported Liverpool's period of European capital of culture with its associated investments had a positive effect on the city's image as a place to do business. The Arts Council, with its grant in aid and lottery monies, will always be an important partner in making sure that arts and culture ecology is vigorous. We like to see it as a three-legged stool, with public money, which now needs to go further, philanthropy, where we do need new strategies, and commercial revenues, which can be created from shrewd investment to generate new money streams. If the Grand Partnership is going to achieve more, we all need to do better. We need to make the case to those who aren't yet involved. We have to bring more individuals into the partnership. Art and culture are the third greatest recipient of £1 million donations after foundations and higher education, but in general, I'm told, only about 1% of charitable giving in the UK currently goes to the arts. We've got to find ways of improving that. In 2010-11, business investment in the arts declined by 7%, according to Arts and Business. We need to bring more businesses into the fold and reverse the decline of business investment in the arts. And a point I'd make there is that many British businesses are actually much better off now than they'd like to say. They've spent the last 3 or 4 years cleaning up their balance sheet, getting rid of their debt, deleveraging. They're in good shape, but they haven't re-entered what I would call their social commitment and their public responsibility to the community they're in. And if they do, they will benefit from it. We need to realize the digital dividend now opening up, enabling us to involve more people in the arts in more ways and more places than ever before. At one of my favorite venues, again in my trip to Bristol, the Watershed last week, I met some digital video pioneers who've simultaneously won funding from the Arts Council and the Engineering Research Council. I think that's a synergy worth contemplating. Now, when it comes to distribution, ACE's partnership with the BBC in the space and the National Theatre and cinemas is just a beginning. Arts and cultural organisations are ready and willing to play their part in unlocking funds for the regions via the bids that LEPs, the local economic partnerships, are going to make, and several already are. I agree with Lord Heseltine that devolved funding can unlock potential of the regions, and I call on the local economic partnerships pitching for that regional money to include arts and culture at the heart of their bids. We have the ideas and we have the leaders to create success. I think Lord Heseltine said that he wanted to unlock the, quotes, creative and economic potential of the UK. Well, the thing, looking around this room, I don't need to tell you, the thing we say we can do, and it's a claim we can prove every day we do creative and we do economic. So, Lord Heseltine, we're ready. Many LEPs already, in fact, want to promote, I'm pleased to say, and grow local creative industries. And New Anglia will be an example, Dorset is another, and Greater Manchester is a third. So let's help them and other LEPs connect to talented creative people and the development they need. I want everyone to see this grand partnership as a transformative opportunity. It's already happening, but it could be much more powerful. Let me be clear once again, we're living through tough economic times, and I can see that in these times, public funding for the arts and culture may well come under more pressure. Though let us state unequivocally, there remains a political consensus in our country in favour of public funding of the arts. I don't think anybody could disagree with that. I would dare anybody to disagree with it. But what I've seen in the last few weeks tells me that we're a sector which can respond to this serious challenge with innovation, creativity, great ideas, ingenuity. The leaders I've met will always campaign for and believe in this public funding. The arts and culture uses public funding as seed corn investment. Innovative ideas and creativity are unlocked. By this investment, it brings partners to the table and leads to growth. Public funding will always be the bedrock of Britain's creative culture because it's the venture capital that makes wonderful things happen. The brilliant, the inspiring, and the stuff people want more of. It's a relatively small sum of money with a very, very big result. I've been inspired by seeing arts organisations and museums responding creatively to the economic pressures they're under. With the Arts Council's support, these organisations act as cultural entrepreneurs, and they are doing great things. They're responding with bold plans, with energy and enthusiasm, and are coming up with smart ways to invest public money. I visited Live Theatre in Newcastle, which has a unique partnership with a gastropub next door. For every pork pie or Scotch egg bought there, money goes to producing vital new writing for their award-winning theatre. New writing is the lifeblood of the theatre. We need more of it. And I like to call this principle now, I've learned to call it the public Scotch egg, the generous Scotch egg. Actually, their Scotch eggs were completely delicious. But imagine that. That's really imaginative, and I take my hat off to that organisation. We're seeing new partnerships that lead to new investments. Circus Space in East London raised more than 10 times their £5,000 fundraising target in their first year of their Catalyst Award, because they thought for the first time about who in their audience might also be a donor. 50 library services have clubbed together to operate a national books on prescription scheme with a small investment from the Arts Council. It's had widespread endorsements in the health sector, including from Department of Health and the Royal College of Psychiatry. They're all committed to a 3-year plan. In Cornwall, a holiday lettings agency is working with Miracle Theatre. They call them the perfect partner because Miracle's mission is to take arts to local communities. And as the company Classic Cottages know, many of their property owners across the southwest enjoy the arts, so it stands to reason that they'll find plenty of people in the audiences who may have a property of their own to let. You get the idea. Coming up with ideas that work, that bring new sources of income, isn't easy, I know. There'll be some ideas that fail, and some new models might lead to tight margins for some time. It is a harsh reality. But with the power of our ideas and creative commercial acumen, I'm confident we can keep the arts and culture changing lives. Commentators sometimes forget that every theatre, gallery, museum, orchestra, dance company is also a business led by clever, ambitious women and men. We should give them every bit of help we can. We know the arts enrich our lives. We've seen how they fire children's imaginations and make them more confident, how they help us understand the world about us, how they enlighten us, entertain us, and get to us emotionally. As long as they have excellence and innovation at their very heart and in their delivery, the arts can do these amazing things. So let's harness this incredible energy to forge a new grand partnership. In this way, we can demonstrate to everyone that the arts and culture do make a difference and should be invested in, valued, and cherished. Thank you very much.
What can we do to practically join up the dots in terms of influencing those people who might need to be influenced further about the value of culture to the economy?
It's very complex because if you just talk about economics, you're rightly seen to be a Philistine. If you just talk about culture, you're not talking about all the values that come from putting in arts and culture. So it's a nuance, because you have to talk about both. If I take Your Old Manor, the Royal Shakespeare Company in Stratford, it has an economic benefit. I know that because when I did go to the All Black Julius Caesar last summer, I forgot to book a restaurant. I couldn't get into the theatre restaurant. I went to TripAdvisor, and the first 3 restaurants in the town that I fancied, I couldn't get into them either. It has an economic payback because of its vastly cultural payback as well. So it's both of those things, and that's a synergy. But it's a difficult one to get over to bean counters.
Also, it's a difficult one to get over to the press. I mean, I think we lurch from kind of crisis story to crisis story. It's very hard to get traction and coverage on the stories that so many people want to say about the brilliant things that they're doing within their communities and the way they are connecting the dots. Yeah. How do we get this out?
Well, look, I do think that's incredibly important. And I wasn't just indulging in rhetoric earlier. I did go to 10 cities. I met some extraordinary cultural leaders, people with very, very bold ideas, and people who are trying out new ways. If every story you ever read about the arts, and that's an exaggeration, but if many stories about the arts simply have this word cuts in the headline, it creates a sort of victim culture. Of course people must bang the drum for the arts. Of course people must campaign for the best funding they could possibly get for the arts. Of course, and that's fine. Everybody should fight their corner. But I met people who didn't come up to me the whole time and just say, oh, cuts. Oh, that's it, cuts. These were really creative, innovative people. And, you know, partnerships bring in higher education into galleries and theatres. These are really dynamic, interesting ideas. So we all need to start looking at what's actually happening, and we need to start lauding those with these ideas and not simply going to what I would call the shorthand, the journalistic shorthand of cuts. Important issue, but there's a lot more besides. So we all have to drive that forward. It's a good point you've made.
Why is it that some local authorities kind of get it and get what the real value is to a healthy creative economy in their region, and why is it that some of them just don't?
It's one word, it's called leadership. If there's local authority leadership where people really believe in the value of arts and culture to their community, quality of life and the economy, both those things hand in hand, then you get really good things happening. So if you take Bristol at the moment, their new independent mayor is an architect. He came up with the tobacco factory, that marvellous arts development they've got there. And some really interesting things are going to happen in Bristol, and they've committed to, I think it's, I've got the number right, I think it's 1.8 million, might be 1.3, but anyway, to their arts budget for the next 12 months. That's leadership. And, you know, I think the single most important thing we can do, talking to local authorities, is find those individuals who are in leadership positions in the council who get it, and give them every assistance and every support to push the agenda for further forward.
What about education? How can the Arts Council help us to keep this right up there, this idea that creative learning is a good thing?
The one thing I'd say that I'm particularly taken by, and I think it's something we should, in all our contacts with the Department of Education, it's an idea we should push, which is school inspections, Ofsted inspections. One of their criteria should be, does a school have proper art, decent, fit-for-purpose arts and cultural education? It seems to me very simple, because we do understand the pressures on education and on schools, and we do understand that they'll do what they have to do, but not necessarily do other things they don't have to do. So let's make it something you have to do. But there are different ways of making it something you have to do, but it should be something you have to do.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think this issue about, what is a good school, how does that get defined? We all know that arts and culture and creative learning, perhaps not just in art subjects, is something that really helps children with attainment. But it's making sure that parents have the ability to be able to see that clearly in the reports from those schools would be extremely useful. Okay, so your Arts Council, you've been there 6 weeks. What do you want it to look like? What do you want it to be?
If at the end of 4 years we had more people engaged in the arts and culture and more people supporting arts and culture, two very simple points, then I'd be very happy. More people engaged in all sorts of ways, including the opportunity we have with digital to bring more arts to people in lots of new ways. More people supporting it, particularly because we found new strategies for increasing fundraising, philanthropy. More people engaged, more people supporting it. I'd be a happy person.
Thank you very much
for
coming today.
Thank you very much.